tens, probably the hundreds of thousands. What was unthinkable a week ago has become a daily event. Today's demonstration started largely in silence as they remembered protesters killed in previous rallies. But when the opposition leader Mir Hussein Mousavi arrived, they came alive. He appealed for restraint amongst a crowd of demonstrators who insist their only demand is a rerun of the disputed election.
It's Ahmadinejad and Khamenei who have to answer this question, that if they don't accept the will of the majority, how does Ahmadinejad control the next government with all these active, enraged opponents? You can persuade a minority to watch the majority, but an angry majority, which has taken to the streets despite being threatened with suppression and are bravely speaking their minds, how could you possibly rule over them anymore?
But the implication of what they're doing is strangely reminiscent of the revolution 30 years ago that brought the Islamic Republic into being. Then there were also huge demonstrations out on the streets, a government uncertain whether to respond with a crackdown or conciliation. A cycle of protests and deaths that eventually brought down a deeply unpopular regime. It all began with the most modern election campaign in Iran's history. Slickly produced videos like this one for the opposition leader Mir Hussein Mousavi. The strong suspicion that big money had been pumped in Mr. Mousavi's case, probably by former President Rafsanjani, out for revenge for his election defeat 4 years ago. Then in the televised presidential debate, Mr. Ahmadinejad launched a bitter attack on corruption that he alleged among members of Mr. Rafsanjani's family. It brought the campaign alive and confirmed what everyone suspected. A very personal feud was being played out in public. But the rivalry is not just between presidential contenders. It involves two veterans of the revolution. On the one side is the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, who's supporting President Ahmadinejad. He largely owes his appointment to former President Rafsanjani, but now they've fallen out in spectacular fashion. Mr. Rafsanjani warned before the election that unless Mr. Khamenei reined in Mr. Ahmadinejad, volcanoes fed inside burning chests will appear in society. From his side, Mr. Rafsanjani has some powerful tools. He's chairman of the Assembly of Experts, which theoretically could dismiss the supreme leader. He's also known for his huge wealth, and Iranians question how it was acquired. Ayatollah Khamenei has built up his power base in the Revolutionary Guards. That's because he's not so respected amongst the clerics, where he's by no means the most senior Ayatollah in Iran. There are rumours that Mr. Rafsanjani has been rallying support in the clerical capital Qom in recent days. All of this while the opposition protests gather momentum. Every night around this time we hear opposition supporters going out onto the roofs around here and chanting Allahu Akbar, God is great. It's a protest, but also I think a sign that they haven't broken totally yet with the principles of the Islamic Republic. But opposition leaders must fear that they've unleashed something that's now running out of control. Meanwhile, the government continues its campaign of intimidation and harassment, like this attack on Tehran University.
There are disagreements within the regime, and the more radical part of the regime, like Mr. Ahmadinejad, is at odds with the more moderate part, like Mr. Rafsanjani. And at this particular moment, the reform movement is benefiting from this tension.
So this is part counter-revolution, part palace coup, an interaction between a huge popular uprising and some tough power politics at the very top of the Islamic Republic. With so many forces at play, it's anybody's guess where it's finally heading.